Hey, Frog fans, welcome into another episode of Frogs Insider. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Melissa Treebwasser. We are presented by Flying T Club. We are part of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, College Football Network. I think I screwed that up. We haven't done this in a couple weeks.
Dave Campbell's
Texas Football, Republic of Football Network.
Yes.
I got it right the second time. I don't remember what I said the first time. Anywho, we're here talking baseball. It is the postseason. Big 12 tournament starts on Wednesday in Arlington. TCU doesn't play until Thursday night because they got a top 4 seed. We're going to talk about all the things that have to do with that tournament, what TCU needs to do this week, touch on a couple other teams as well, because there are a lot of opportunities for some other Big 12 teams to solidify their chance to be in the NCAA tournament. And some teams could maybe move up a seed, slide into the hosting conversation. We'll get into all of that. But Melissa, first, let's talk a little bit about the Flying T Club. They are our presenting sponsor. They are TCU's NIL collective, and they support over 130 TCU student athletes. They also partner with a bunch of nonprofits in and around the city of Fort Worth, and you can go join up, contribute to the cause, and learn more about Flying T Club by going to flyingtclub.com. Flyingtclub.com is where you can learn all about their stories they do with student athletes, all the things they do with nonprofits, and then make a contribution to help support TCU student athletes. Really great organization. They bleed purple like crazy, and love the folks over at Flying T Club.
We do indeed.
All right, Melissa, let's jump in. Let's start with the news of the day. We are recording this on Tuesday night, and on Tuesday afternoon, the Big 12 released its postseason awards for baseball. 9 Horned Frogs made the list, including one big award and 3 first-teamers. Let's start right there. Sawyer Strosnider, Big 12 Freshman of the Year. I think we've all kind of seen this one coming for the last few months.
Yeah, since February, basically.
Pretty much since he got all those strikeouts out of the way in the first 3 games. But Strosnider leads TCU in batting average, leads TCU in OPS, leads TCU in slugging percentage. I think he leads TCU in on-base percentage as well. I'm pulling up the email here. And don't worry, he leads TCU, or he's second on TCU in doubles and home runs. And he finishes the regular season in Big 12 play with a 374 batting average.
Insane for a freshman.
As a true freshman. He is the 8th Horned Frog to receive Freshman of the Year award honors. He is the 4th Horned Frog to do so since TCU joined the Big 12. So you have Connor Wanhanen getting it in 2015. You have Lucan Baker getting it in 2016. Braden Taylor wins the award in 2021, and now Sawyer Strosnider wins the award in 2025. Pretty good company, if I do say so myself, for Sawyer.
I'd say so indeed.
He also is a first-team All Big 12 member, along with his teammates and fellow freshman, Noah Franco, as a DH, and Tommy Lepore as one of the starting pitchers. Those are your 3 first-team All Big 12 players.
All 3 first-year Horned Frogs.
All 3 first-year Horned Frogs.
Yeah.
Pretty good. We talked about this a lot before the baseball season started, but just how good this offseason was recruiting-wise for TCU. It is truly coming to fruition here in the postseason awards alone. Also, I do want to give you a shout out. I went back and I think I texted you this. I went back and I listened to our preseason show, just kind of prepping for the season. And you set TCU's win total over under at 36.5. So bravo to you.
I will pat myself on the back. And if people haven't noticed, if you're not watching, we are wearing matching shirts. Like if you see just like
unintended,
a little flash. Yeah.
Unintended.
That is the thing that's happening.
Shout out to former sponsor Home Field Apparel. But you set the win total at 36.5, and we spent like 30 minutes talking about 36 and 18 as the record. Yeah. And gosh, the 18 losses feels like too many. I think they go under and blah, blah, blah. And here they are now 37 and 17 to finish the regular season. I listened to the whole episode. There were a lot of things that we really got right.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the potential of Sawyer. Mm-hmm. Now he's Big 12 Freshman of the Year. Yep. We talked a lot about Tommy Lepore.
Yeah.
And what he could bring to the table as a starter.
You were big on Tommy from the get-go. Yeah.
That was pretty great. We love Noah Franco. We talked a lot about Nolan Traeger and Carson Bowen splitting time behind the plate. This was also recorded about 12 hours before we realized that Ben Abelt wasn't going to be playing this year. So we did talk a little bit about Ben Abelt. But no, I think our season preview held up, and so good on us.
Yeah,
That's a little pat on the back.
We're informed.
We are informed. 3 Horned Frogs also made second team All Big 12. They are the aforementioned Nolan Traeger, also Chase Brunson in center field, and
Carson Bowen.
Carson Bowen as a utility player. He got the utility spot there. Interesting, right, that Chase Brunson was the second teamer. But I think that goes more to how talented the Big 12 is and how talented outfield is in the Big 12 than anything else. Because, in my mind, Chase Brunson had a first team Big 12 kind of season. He got passed up, obviously, by teammate Sawyer Strosnider. The 3 other outfielders on the first team All Big 12 list are Isaiah Jackson from Arizona State, who we saw firsthand in Fort Worth this year, Damian Bravo of Texas Tech, and Logan Hughes of Texas Tech. I probably would have put Brunson in over Logan Hughes, but that's just me, and I am biased, if nothing else.
Sure.
So,
but being biased doesn't mean you're wrong. And
this is also true.
Yeah.
Granted, I also probably would have put Jackson Hagee from Kansas on the first team over one of those Tech guys, because I thought he had a pretty dang good season as well.
I also think, like, if we're kind of going to go down that road, it's really interesting to look at these big awards and these first teamers. And, I know that baseball is a very individual sport, but like impacting winning should matter. And Chase Brunson and Hagee play for teams that finished in the top 3 in the standings. And you look at the player of the year, the pitcher of the year, and much of that first team, and great individual seasons. And it is baseball, but I think that having, like, Texas Tech was so disappointing from preseason expectations, and Oklahoma State was so, maybe it's not fair for that to fall on individual players, but when you see, a whole team being elevated by your play, a whole lineup being elevated by your ability to handle the bat in the middle of the order, I feel like those things should matter. But maybe that's just because I want Chase to be a first teamer.
No, I hear you. And I agree to an extent. I will also say that when you're looking at a guy like Nolan Schubart, say, for Oklahoma State, who was preseason Big 12 Player of the Year, had the highest WAR of any returning player in the conference coming into this season. It's really easy to pitch around him when guys behind him aren't hitting.
That's very fair.
So, like, there were moments, I think, early in Oklahoma State's season where he didn't have the opportunities to live up, and he was banged up. He'd miss a couple games here and there. But the strength of the team as a whole, I think, is really important in baseball, similar to the ways it is in football, right? Like, if you have 2 really good offensive tackles, but the inside of your offensive line isn't great, you're going to notice the inside of the offensive line, and the tackles aren't going to have the season they want to have. Neither is the quarterback. But I'm fine, frankly, with, I didn't think Antoine Jean would get Big 12 Pitcher of the Year because he is kind of a long reliever. But I mean, he had a dominant season. He was absolutely dominant for Houston. I can't knock him getting that award. And Carrington Cross, I mean, we got to see him just a couple weeks ago here in Fort Worth. He's a dude, and I have no qualms with him winning Big 12 Player of the Year.
But he's also, when I think of that series, he's not the guy I remember.
Right. Well, no, you remember the guy who was you remember the guy that was hitting 212 coming into the weekend, and then he hit 3 home runs, and Kirk threw his
nothing.
clipboard.
Yeah. It's not Cross's fault whatsoever that he got outshone.
I mean, Cross also hit 2 home runs and had like a couple doubles. Like, he wasn't bad. That
he had a great weekend. Yeah.
But yeah, no, interesting lists all the way around. TCU littered it. I think the coolest aspect of the Big 12 awards, though, was the all freshman team, which is 12 players, and almost half of them were TCU freshmen. You have obviously Franco and Strosnider and Traeger. Then you also have Cade Udy, who had 6 saves on the year. I think that was 4th most in the Big 12. And you had Mason Brassfield, who was another guy we talked heavily on in the preview episode about at some point he's probably going to end up in the starting rotation. Here we are at the end of the year, and he's been lights out since getting back into the starting rotation for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So shout out to those guys. Really cool to see TCU so well represented on these lists after they frankly weren't last year. And we talked so much last year about how this was going to be a big offseason, getting these freshmen on campus, hitting the portal in the right way. And TCU's coaching staff did all of those things to the point where they're all being recognized in postseason awards. And also Anthony Silva was an honorable mention as well. Hit 391 in Big 12 play, for those that were wondering.
Wow.
Yeah.
He came on so strong late,
Yeah.
but that still shocks me to hear that number in conference play. But he's been really, really consistently good. And he's come up at some big spots down the stretch too after struggling,
Yeah.
obviously all of last year and the beginning of this year. In those clutch opportunities. He's had some really big hits and some really big RBI late in games.
Yeah. The walk-off home run a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. And not to mention, I mean, we've always known about Anthony Silva's defense,
Yeah.
but it still continues to amaze me.
Yeah.
The things that he can do at shortstop and the balls that he can get to at
Yeah.
shortstop that other people just don't.
That he makes
get
look
to.
so routine doing
Mhm.
too. That you almost forget to appreciate his greatness because of how easy he makes it look sometimes.
Truly.
He
You
makes
truly
it look
do.
hard sometimes too. God bless him.
There are moments.
More often
you know.
than not, he makes it look really, really easy.
Absolutely. So congratulations to all the Horned Frogs that made one of these lists. It's really cool to see that many names on there. And you look up and down these lists, and I've been banging this drum all year. I'm going to do this again right now. There's so much talent up and down all of these rosters in the Big 12. I am so disappointed sometimes in the lack of national coverage that the Big 12 gets from some of the bigger
D1
brand
baseball.
name
Say it. Just say it.
organizations.
D1 baseball. Kendall hates our team.
Kendall does not hate anybody's team, frankly. I think he hates a lot of the fans on some of these teams,
That's
but I
very
don't think
true.
he hates any of the teams themselves. But then there are also a lot of folks out there that do cover Big 12 really, really well. Noah Darling is one that comes to mind. The College Baseball Central guys, 11.7 spends a lot of time on the Big 12 as well. So it is talked about a lot. I think some of the kind of the more what am I trying to say here? The publications that selection
Don't pay
committee
attention.
folks
Yeah,
and other people
until
pay
May.
attention to, I think could use a little bit more Big 12 talk, because it is an incredibly talented conference. And I say that because we're talking about a conference tournament where you've got right now in D1 baseball's projections for the NCAA tournament 8 Big 12 teams penciled in, and they haven't had more than 5 since they had 7 in 2019. And in the last 5 times to Omaha, the Big 12 has only had 3 teams that are currently in the league reach Omaha. That's TCU in 23, Arizona in 21, Texas Tech in 2019. So big year for the Big 12 to start to maybe transform its reputation as a baseball league. And now is the time where it matters, Melissa.
Well, I think to reclaim its reputation more than transform. I mean, for so long. And it, like we talked about earlier, that, it's hard when teams that have gotten national respect have been to Omaha, like Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, have down years. Just like it was bad for the football conference that Oklahoma State was so abhorrent in football. But I also think it speaks to the larger narrative that we are seeing these bigger national publications that do have an impact and influence on seeding lean more heavily to that Big Ten SEC narrative in all sports, because it's better for business. Like at the end of the day, TV drives so much of this discussion, and everybody comes in with bias. Like you can't not acknowledge that. I mean, access changes coverage. We saw that with the football program at TCU. You open your doors, more people are likely to walk through them. But also the narratives. I mean, we talk about it in pro sports all the time. Oh, the NBA needs New York now, because if it's going to be Oklahoma City, it has to be Oklahoma City. Like, markets matter, and they do drive things. I don't think they decide things, but they're certainly a layer of influence, even if the writers and reporters are trying really hard not to be influenced by it.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. But that's why we're here talking Big 12. That's why so many other folks are. And everyone should keep doing that and be as loud as you possibly can. Melissa, we're going to get into the Big 12 tournament here in just a second to obviously talk a lot about TCU. I've got a couple other things I want to say about a few teams that are trying to solidify their resume going into next weekend. But first, let's talk about the location of the Big 12 tournament, because it is in Arlington, Texas this year. That'll be the 5th year in a row that it has been in Arlington. Prior to that, it was at Bricktown in Oklahoma City, which was also a really nice place to have some college baseball.
Place to cover a game, but a beautiful venue. But the
Right.
weather
never worked out.
I went up to that tournament almost every year, and it was tough scenes up there.
There was always a rain delay. It's tornado season in Oklahoma.
It was 130.
Yeah, it's either really hot or you're going to get blown away.
Yeah.
Like in Twister. And so they moved the tournament indoors, climate controlled, no chance of weather delays. You can stay on time as long as the baseball doesn't go to extra innings.
Yeah,
But that's a good that's a different kind of problem to have.
sure.
But and at least you're playing ball at that point. And for the last 5 years, we've seen what I think are really successful Big 12 tournaments year in and year out at Arlington. The conference announced earlier this week on Monday that they are moving the Big 12 championship a couple years earlier than their contract with Globe Life Field ends, out to Surprise, Arizona, which is the spring training venue for the Texas Rangers. So it's
Because
still
their
in the
deal is
Rangers
with the
family.
Rangers, not with
Right.
Globe Life, correct?
So their deal is with Rev Entertainment.
Yeah.
And so there are a couple moving parts here, but Rev Entertainment puts on the Big 12 tournament every year. And Globe Life Field and the Texas Rangers both are willing hosts and very gracious hosts for the Big 12. It is one of the best setups for any baseball
Yeah.
tournament that I've been to, as far as care for the teams, availability of the field and practice facilities. The Rangers and Globe Life Field do it right. And they have done very good by the Big 12 these 5 years. They do very good by the Shriners Children's preseason tournaments and by all the other tournaments that they host for college baseball. The midweek games they do early in the season. They take care of these teams incredibly well, and coaches have talked about that in the past. But it's also, and so I tweeted out the other day when this news broke that it was a terrible move for the league, and I still believe that for a variety of reasons. First of which is on Thursday, when it's going to be 72 degrees while the Big 12 is playing baseball in Arlington, there's a high of 101 in Surprise, Arizona. And that's not a dome field, it's a spring training facility, right? So you're going back to a place where there are weather issues. The second issue that I have is, excuse me, let's talk about accessibility for fans. DFW is a really big airport, third, fourth largest in the country, depending on what O'Hare is doing on any given day. And you have people from all over the country who want to come and watch Big 12 baseball happen. You have massive, massive alumni bases in DFW for a variety of the schools, including TCU, Baylor, Tech, Oklahoma State. There are a ton of Arizona fans in DFW. There are a ton of folks from Kansas down in DFW who went to one of the two state schools there. And so you're, from a fan base and from an access standpoint, it makes a ton of sense to have it in Arlington. Surprise, Arizona is 90 minutes away from Phoenix to the west. So you're talking about having to fly maybe 2 flights if you're, I don't know, West Virginia. And then you still have a car ride to get there. And then the third thing is, why is this tournament moving away from kind of the midpoint of the conference?
Yeah. Where the headquarters are.
When you are a league that is spread far and wide like the Big 12, it does not make sense to me to have a conference tournament for any sport kind of on the outskirts of where your conference is. And I understand that that's really easy and accessible for Arizona State, Arizona, BYU, and Utah. But West Virginia has to travel 2 time zones now. And they are like, if that was this year, as the 1 seed, having to travel 2 time zones to play in your own tournament, that feels ridiculous. Cal is doing the same thing right now, and they beat Miami earlier today. So maybe it's a moot point. Planes, they fly pretty fast, so maybe time zones don't matter as much. But in my mind, it doesn't make as much sense to put that tournament where it is and make it less accessible to fans, and then also make it more of a pain in the ass to travel to for your teams. Yeah. Talk about UCF trying to get there, Cincinnati trying to get there. Like, it just doesn't make a ton of sense.
And it costs money. Like, that is expenses for a sport that a lot of schools have trouble, staying out of the red in too.
Yeah. And so I did some digging and I did some asking around over the last 24 hours or so to try and get some more details on why this is happening now, because the contract goes through 2028. And I see the rumors out there about, oh, well, Globe Life wants the SEC to come in. It's going to be a hot ticket at Globe Life. They'll sell double, triple what they were selling to the Big 12. And all of that is probably true to an extent. The SEC also has a contract for their Big 12 baseball tournament in Hoover through 2028. Same contract length as the Big 12's was in Arlington. And Hoover the stadium in Hoover is making a significant financial investment into upgrading those facilities to keep the SEC baseball tournament around. So, will the SEC tournament move in 2026 to Arlington? I don't see that happening unless there's a buyout of their current contract with Hoover and some financial compensation to that facility for all of the work that they were doing while being under the impression that the SEC tournament was going to continue to be there. Um, After 2028, I wouldn't be shocked to see the SEC move its tournament to Arlington, Texas, even though that is a similar
Yeah, it's the same
situation to
thing.
Phoenix where you're moving it way lopsided. Um, Team like South Carolina is going to have to, I mean, it's only one time zone still going in that direction,
But
but
it's still, I
whatever,
mean, 2,000 miles almost, right? 1,800 miles.
something like that. So maybe it's a mountain out of a molehill, but it's a little odd to change the location 2 years early in a contract. As I was asking around, also cost came up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Apparently, it is incredibly costly to run this event at Globe Life Field. And my initial thought is, yeah, you're playing in a major league ballpark in the middle of baseball season, so it's going to cost you quite a bit. But I thought the value that they were getting out of that would have been worth it
Yeah, and,
to
and
not
that's
have
going
to
to be
deal with delays and other things.
my question. Like, it is, like I, when I saw your tweet and we talked about it a little bit too, like, it is late May. The
Hmm.
vast majority of schools are still in session. You're dealing with graduations, graduation parties. It's wedding season. There are so many things pulling at families' time and money this time of year, and it's a really hard time to pull older kids out of school.
Yeah,
So, as you mentioned, there's a significant portion of Big 12 alumni within probably a 4-hour drive of Arlington.
yeah,
That is an easy place to get to for a game or two games or for the weekend part of this. You are asking the vast majority of your fan base to get on a plane if they're going to watch this tournament in Surprise. And I think attendance is going to be significantly lower. It'll look more full because it's a smaller venue. And
right.
oftentimes for some of those early games, Globe Life looks pretty empty. But at the end of the day, like, is the cost outweighing the benefit, or is the benefit outweighing the cost, I guess, of
Hmm.
keeping that in Arlington? I still think there's probably more to the story. I still think there's a layer here that hasn't been uncovered. I agree with you. I think the SEC obviously would want to make that play long term, but I don't see that happening in 2026. So the question is, why are they doing this now if it wasn't necessary, if this wasn't contracted out? What's the rush to do it? And I think it was met with, I didn't see a single person that lives outside of the state of Arizona that liked this move.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, Tech
And
fans were pissed. Oklahoma State fans were pissed. I didn't see a single coherent thought from a West Virginia person. That's maybe because of this. I don't know. It might be the moonshine. Um,
already
UCF
talking
fans,
that mess, huh?
UCF fans were pretty quiet because they're not traveling out here this year. But
They
and
didn't make it.
same with Utah. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. And then the one thing that sticks in my head, and this isn't like a slight on BYU or whatever. I truly do not care about their, you know, Thursday through Saturday scheduling, but
Or you just don't want to get into that mess because it's not worth it.
both. But right now, you're in the perfect situation to have a team that has religious
Yeah.
boundaries, because you know that no matter what, you're going to get the thing done on Saturday night.
Yeah.
What happens if in 2027 in Surprise, Saturday is a terrible monsoon day and BYU is trying to play in the championship,
Yeah.
and now you got to kick that game all the way to Monday after Selection Sunday?
Yeah.
Who's the AQ from the Big 12 then? Right?
You're
Like, how does
creating
that?
problems that you don't need to create for reasons that nobody is giving us.
I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
I also am just like very personally frustrated because it is an event that I absolutely love to cover. It is one
Sure.
of my favorite things. I've covered it at Globe Life. I covered it in Bricktown for years. It's one of my favorite events to be at. It's just baseball and hanging out in a stadium and eating ballpark food and hanging out with all the people, because a lot of people travel to this. This precludes me from being able to go except for, potentially a championship game, and you can't plan for that travel wise.
Hmm.
Like, you can hope that your team makes it, but Yeah, I mean, this time of year, I'm a teacher. Like, I just like I that's just, this very well could be the last year I get to cover it if this is a long term answer, and that super bums me out. So
Yeah.
selfishly, I'm super bummed about it, because it's just not like I'm not like personally going to spend the money with the hope that TCU makes it to a Saturday when I know
Hmm.
I might have the chance to travel to a regional or super regional or a World Series, within the next couple of weeks when school's out for me too. So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I mean, everybody has to make choices, right? And so, like, I feel like for a lot of people, if you have a competitive team, the choice is going to be, I'm going to skip the tournament to go to whatever's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're a TCU fan right now, right?
Yeah,
Because like if it was this year, then TCU is on a win or two in the tournament away from being a regional host.
yeah,
You're thinking, cool, I'm just going to kind of wait and see how the tournament plays out, and then am I booking a flight to Atlanta to be the 2 seed in Georgia, or am I hanging out here for a regional and then trying to get somewhere for a super?
yeah,
No, it totally makes sense, and it's a reasonable uh, thing for people to be considering, and it's similar to in a couple different ways. Um, fans and their the push and pull of, hey, there might be multiple college football playoff games for my team this
yeah,
year. Like, think about Arizona State fans in the college football playoff, like sitting there in Arlington watching their team 2 points ahead of Texas in the fourth quarter, thinking, okay, well, shit, now, like, what are we going to do for flights next
yeah,
week? Right. And should we have just waited? Like, well, we can't go next week because we came this week, or we're not going to go this week with the hopes of going next week. It's all very similar stuff that fans have to, people are on a budget,
yeah.
and sports and entertainment generally are becoming expensive to the point where people are writing those things out of their budget more and more.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this impacts attendance. I think you're right. I think it's going to look fuller but actually have fewer folks there,
Yeah. And it
and
just,
that's
I just,
disappointing.
and kind of just to put a bow on this, to finish our conversation about what an underrated conference the Big 12 has become. Like,
Hmm.
this is one of those, like, the fans show up for this tournament.
They do.
They really do. And I think it's you reward the fans by hearing them and knowing that, like, this is a great experience for them. And baseball is such an investment from a time perspective. To be a college baseball fan, whether you're going to the games in person or watching them all, on ESPN Plus or wherever they end up, it is such an
Yeah.
investment that I hate to just see anything that kind of is a net negative for the fan bases.
Yeah, and it feels like that
Yeah.
for everybody except like Arizona State.
Yeah. Congrats,
But
Arizona schools.
shout out. They are two of the best as
Sure.
far as like program tradition goes in the league. So,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, better than like Salt Lake City or something, I guess. But
You're really just bringing it tonight. Just
it's
a
fine.
little feisty. Yeah, a little
It's the week
feisty.
before summer break in my house, so
Yeah,
we're all
I
just
get
trying to survive right now.
we are all just trying to survive. I feel that on a spiritual level.
Speaking of survival, let's take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors, and then we will break down this week in Arlington. Let's do it. Hey, Frog fans, Jamie Plunkett here, one of the hosts of Frogs Insider, and I wanted to take a second and talk to you about our presenting sponsor, the Flying T Club. The Flying T Club is an incredible organization. It's TCU's NIL collective, the only NIL collective for TCU, and they support over 130 student athletes wearing purple, loud and proud. They partner these student athletes with organizations in and around the city of Fort Worth, giving back to the Fort Worth community, making our community stronger and better. If you want to learn more about how you can support the Flying T Club's efforts and by proxy support TCU student athletes, all you've got to do is go to flyingtclub.com. That's flyingtclub.com, and check out the different ways that you can get involved with that organization. I've known the folks over at the FTC for a really long time, and they're incredible people. They're dedicated Horned Frogs. They bleed purple through and through, and they want to get to know you and see how you can partner with them to make the best of TCU student athletes' lives while they're on campus and in Fort Worth. The work they do stretches well beyond TCU's campus as well, partnering with multiple nonprofit organizations. If you have any opportunity to give, I would encourage you to do so over at flyingtclub.com. All right, big thanks to the Flying T Club. We appreciate their sponsorship of this show, this sports season, starting back in the fall all the way through this month. It has been a real treat to work with the Flying T Club this season. We hope y'all have learned more about them, gone to their website, gifted some money to them, and supported TCU in that way, because they really are the best of the best when it comes to Frog fans. All right, Melissa, it's Big 12 tournament time. Round 1 starts on Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., bright and early. We know there won't be a weather delay.
I kept looking for the games all morning today and wondering why they weren't posted, and it took me till about 3 o'clock to realize it was because it was Tuesday.
It's Tuesday? Oh, gosh,
Teachers
it's that kind of week for you, huh?
If you know a teacher, I'm just saying, just be extra nice to them this month.
What kind of gift would you appreciate from supportive folks? Like, are you talking like wine, Starbucks?
I'm thinking
ketamine, like what?
Yeah, whatever it takes at this point to survive. Sleep. You got any good sleep tricks, like how to keep your pillow cold? Honestly, that's all I want anymore is just sleep. But wine and Starbucks works as well, But we are on the home stretch and we are struggling, my friends. It is rough out here.
You've only got a couple. Are your kids what, like
Finals
this week? Finals week? Okay.
Yeah. So we said we graduated our seniors on Saturday. Beautiful ceremony. Oak Ridge does a really lovely graduation. It was great. And now we're just finals week and then post planning. So we're on the home stretch. I'm gonna make it, but I've been at 3 weeks of hanging on for dear life, if I'm being very honest.
Wow, 3 weeks of hanging on for dear life sounds a lot like Oklahoma State's last bit of the regular season here.
Man, I'm trying to I should have been kept keeping a tally, because you haven't taken down Baylor yet, so we'll leave that. You have not taken down K-State yet. I think I know why. Likely first opponent. And I'm trying to think of who else you like.
Oh, BYU, but no, this was complimentary to Oklahoma State. They've been on fire, right? They came in preseason Big 12 favorite, voted first in the conference, and then just weren't that for 90% of the season. And now they've won 9 out of their last 10. They went from completely out of the NCAA tournament picture to penciled in as a 3 seed. Somewhere, I believe right now, as of D1's projections on Sunday, they're the 3 seed in Oregon State's regional, and they're not even one of the last 4 teams in, whatever that is, bubble team. So, shout out to them. No, that was meant to be kind of positive for Oklahoma State. I do like Oklahoma State baseball. I think they're a very fun program. Anywho, Melissa, the tournament starts on Wednesday. There are 4 baseball games on Wednesday. TCU is not one of them. But as we get into this tournament a little bit more, as we start to kind of figure out what we want from TCU this week, what are you thinking? What's going through your mind?
I mean, to me, every projection I've seen, TCU is right at the end of that top 16 and right at the end of having an opportunity to host. I mean, I think that's the goal every year for a program of TCU's caliber, is you want to get that first weekend on your home field. And we both know, and anyone listening to this knows, what a great atmosphere playoff baseball is at Lupton, and how great it would be to be able to bring that back this summer. It's been such a fun athletics year for the most part for TCU. We also, I need to shout out TCU men's tennis. Man, just ran into an absolute juggernaut. A 30-year-old across the board Wake Forest.
I was going to say, let's talk about age limits in college sports.
Okay, listen, let's not, because
you and I could have played for that Wake Forest team.
Their average age of their starting lineup was about the same as TCU women's basketball. So we're not gonna talk about it.
I'll talk about it. No, we're talking about it. 27-year-old in your 7 spot, like, come on.
Yeah, and he's like a freshman. It's insane.
LinkedIn.com.
Yeah, it's time. But yeah, so it's been such a fun spring, and this TCU baseball team's been so fun to watch. I would love for those freshmen to get to play in front of a Rock and Lupton for the postseason. So it looks like they're right there. I don't know that losing in the first round knocks them out, but the last projection I saw, TCU was the only Big 12 team set to host. And I do think that does put you in a dangerous position if you don't win a game, because if West Virginia is the regular season champion, obviously a very soft regular season championship, we call it what we want, but if they go through and they win the tournament championship and they decide to only a bid stealer, so many things can happen. I think TCU needs to go win a game. And it looks like it very well could be against K-State, which has been such a bugaboo for the Horned Frogs here the last couple of seasons. I feel like getting a win against the Wildcats, if that's what happens, in order to solidify yourself as a host after the way that the season began against the Wildcats, I think would be really cathartic and great for the confidence of a young program.
I think you're right. The 10-2 loss to Kansas State and Arlington weekend two was a tough one. I think both teams are vastly different ball clubs than they were in the second weekend in February. You talk about the youth of TCU and the freshmen and how much they've grown this season. I think TCU specifically is a vastly different ball club than the one that lost to Kansas State way back when. Um, I agree also in that I think TCU needs one win to really kind of lock in
Yeah.
hosting. Two would be great. Winning the tournament, obviously, you're a lock at that
Yeah.
point, and you're probably not even talking about being on the 14, 15, 16 line. You're probably up around maybe 10 or 11 at
Mhm.
that point as well. I also think that, Houston has enough juice to take a game
Yeah.
from Kansas State. So I don't know that we should necessarily just pencil in Kansas State. I think the ideal scenario for TCU would be Houston using Antoine Jean, Big 12 Pitcher of the Year, to beat Kansas State, and then you get a Antoine-less Houston team
Yeah.
in your quarterfinal game. And that's not an unrealistic thing. I think Houston has the juice to beat Kansas State. I obviously think Kansas State's lineup, top to bottom, is better, and I think Kansas State could be a dark horse candidate to win the Big 12 tournament
For
if
sure.
they get past TCU and have to face Kansas. I could see that being a really fun semifinal game. But yeah, I agree. I think one win for TCU is kind of should be the goal. The goal this weekend should be to win the tournament. Come away with a win and lock yourself into a host, and I think it'll be a successful week for the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you don't, it's never going into the postseason. Like West Virginia's what, in a 4 game losing streak right now. You don't want to be
Yeah,
one and done in the tournament going into the postseason, especially with the young team. I think this time off, this little bit of a break that the Frogs have had has probably been really good for those young players. They've never looked like they fully hit a wall, but there's still some time where you're playing more baseball than you've ever played in a season in your life. I mean, these guys all play 130 games a year. That's why they all have had 7 Tommy Johns by the time they turn 20. But I think that just time to just rest, recover. There's no school. You're just focusing on routine and practice and playing. I think that they'll come out really rejuvenated and excited for this opportunity. So going with some positive momentum, I would love to see them go through and win the whole thing. I think that would be a huge boost for them. I completely agree. And it does give you a much better hosting scenario. But if you can get a win, if you can get a couple of wins and feel like you've done the job that you need to do, it's also really important for them to kind of figure out what this condensed kind of win or go home situation looks like for their pitching staff. You've learned a
yeah,
lot over the last couple of weeks, but there's been a lot of kind of like manipulating the Rubik's cube to make things work. It feels like with that group, and especially with Tommy's had some tough outings. I still fully trust him. Cademan's obviously struggled the last couple of weeks. Braden seems like he's kind of come out of that slump. He looked great last weekend. Brass, as we talked about earlier, he's really stepped and looked comfortable in that role as a starter. But you have some things to figure out before you go into a potential, 4 games in 3 days kind of scenario. So
hmm
get a win and then see what you get out of these guys and who's where and what headspace heading into when the grinder really starts to push on you.
yeah. I think one of the biggest takeaways from the Utah series for me was Mason. I mean, Mason Brassfield was great. He ran out of steam about the same spot he ran out of
Yeah.
steam the last two starts. Once he hits the 80 pitch mark, his stuff really starts to fade. And that is totally expected for a guy who is a true freshman, hasn't thrown this many innings
Yeah.
in a while, wasn't a starter for a good portion of the season, and now has thrown into the 90s the last 3 weekends. I think this is probably just kind of where he's going to be for the rest of the year, and then he's going to hit that off-season workout regimen pretty hard. Zach Dakin's
Yeah.
going to get after him a little bit, and we're going to see a guy who can probably give you 95 to 100 pitches per outing next season. But the biggest thing for me, my biggest takeaway, was using Louis Rodriguez multiple innings twice in a weekend.
Yeah.
You got 3 2/3 innings from him on Thursday night where he earned the win through about 39, 40 pitches. And then he came back and he threw about the same number of pitches and about 2 2/3, I believe, 2 1/3 of work on Saturday afternoon. So the fact that you got 2 outings out of Rodriguez and he threw about 80 pitches, I think is massive for this bullpen.
I agree.
Because like you said, Braden Sloan hit a about a 5 week speed bump there and has started to pull up out of it. But you've moved Mason Brassfield into the starting rotation. He was a great long reliever. And now you've got to figure out, hey, are we going to have to shuffle some things around in the rotation? What's it actually going to look like? Having reliability in the bullpen still in the form of Louis Rodriguez, I think, is huge. And also Nate Stern.
Yeah.
This isn't a Utah recaps show, but that was fun. That was a fun
Yeah.
ninth inning on Saturday, or 11th inning, pardon me. Watching him take a daddy hack on a fastball and then
I
come
really
out
thought he was going to
and
hit a
get the
home run.
save.
100%. I really thought that he was
I
just going to knock one out.
Oh gosh, I wish. First of all, strike three to him was not a strike. It was about 4 inches outside, and I was texting with someone, and I said, I hope that he gets the same call when he's out there in the bottom of the inning, and he did for a strike three. So
That's all that matters.
you know what goes around comes around. Justice
Yeah.
was served. No, I think that there are a lot of questions that need to be answered for TCU specifically in the weekend rotation, like you said. Also, you're talking about having to replace Carson Bowen because he's not coming back this year with a broken rib. Um, just tough injury luck for him. Really, really sucks. And now you have a guy who was locking in at first base and looking much better defensively, and you had your leadoff hitter and second highest guy as far as on base percentage goes, no longer in the lineup. I don't know really what they do there. Probably Cole Kramer at first, Jack Bell at second,
Yeah.
Colton Griffin at third, or Griffin at second, Jack Bell at third, somewhere around there, with Griffin leading off. But I mean, you're losing Carson Bowen for the postseason is brutal, and when you consider Carson's injury history, you just feel so terrible for the guy. Like he just can't. It's always cropping up, and it just sucks because it's not like normal injuries. Right? It's not like, the guy's got a high ankle sprain that's just nagging and just won't go away. It's blood clots. It's a broken rib. It's, what's the next thing going to be? And just feel terrible for him.
Yeah, it sucks from a baseball and tactical standpoint because, like you said, I mean, his role as the leadoff hitter is so important to that lineup. He's been such a great table setter, and when the lineup does turn over, he can knock guys in, he can move guys around, he can play station to station. He does so many things well. And then defensively, he was really bringing it on. I mean, it changes everything because if you have to move Kramer to first, like you said, now you've got to. You finally kind of had something where you felt really confident with Jack Bell. Anthony Silva and Cole Kramer had really developed really strong chemistry up the middle too. Like that changes things defensively. It impacts every aspect of what this coaching staff is trying to do with this lineup and with this defensive output. So it's a huge loss, but more than anything, like you said, I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say Carson is one of TCU fans' favorite players because he has such incredible positive energy and such a great attitude, and he's been such a team guy. And he's a kid that's a catcher that twice now has been willing to split time at where his natural position is and play a position that was relatively unfamiliar with him because it's what the team needed. He's just that kind of kid. So super bummed for him. I think that TCU's outlook changes without Carson in the lineup and in the field. I think they can overcome it, but the worst part of it is just seeing a kid that I know, you and I both think so highly of and think so highly of his family, and seeing him not getting to be out there in the best part of the season just sucks.
Yeah, I think as far as the lineup goes, the only other alternative that I can think of, and I'm not sure this will happen because I don't know if they want him back in the field yet. Sawyer Strosnider's been DHing, right? And so Isaac Cadena started the season playing first base. Do you slide him back to first base, shift Noah Franco either to left field or DH, and then do you have Sawyer back out there in right field? That's an option, especially if you want to pitch Noah Franco. Putting him in DH makes so much more sense.
Noah made a surprise pitching
Well, this is so. Here's the thing, right? Because people have been complaining for the last month about why Noah
Yeah.
hasn't been pitching, and now you saw why. It's because it creates just a logjam of other
Yeah.
issues when you bring a fielder in to pitch. They played the last two innings of baseball of the regular season with Sawyer Strosnider on the bench because they made a pitching
Yeah.
change, and that cannot happen on a regular basis. And so this is part of the reason why we haven't seen Noah throw since April 29th or whatever it was. Um, so if that's going to be a guy that you want to go to, then he's probably going to have to DH, and you're going to have to figure out something else in the outfield. If he's not a guy you're going to go to, would you prefer to have him in right field or left? Probably left, but injuries and other things have caused him to play right field. He's looked more confident out there recently,
Yeah.
um, which is really good. He's growing, he's developing, but I don't know that they've there are a lot of moving parts just because of Carson's injury right now, and I don't know what the solution is going to be until they take the field on Thursday.
I'm gonna make a hot take prediction here. Sawyer starts in the outfield
You
Thursday
do?
night.
You think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I'm
I
not
think
convinced yet.
I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, the bigger ballpark, there's more room to run. There's really, really good padding on that outfield wall. I think, I mean, at some point with Carson down, you need Sawyer in the outfield.
Hmm.
And it's like you gotta pull the band-aid if you're gonna put him out there at all. You got to pull the band-aid at some part. And would you rather do it at Globe Life or at Lupton or wherever else? I would not be surprised whatsoever if he is playing in the outfield, or maybe he
Yeah.
comes in as a defensive replacement. I don't know. Like it depends on what kind of lineup juggling stuff you want to do, I guess. But I
Yeah.
think he plays this weekend in the outfield.
And then because then you're asking the question, okay, who's in left, right? Is it Noah? Is it Isaac? And Cole is at first base? Because really, truly, the defensive. This isn't meant to sound negative, but the defensive alignment is almost secondary to what you want the batting order to be,
For sure. Yeah.
because you've got to figure out who your nine guys that you want swinging are.
Yeah.
And so if you look at your lineup card and you say, well, with Carson Bowen out, we need a leadoff hitter, and that leadoff hitter is going to be Colton Griffin. Okay, well, Colton Griffin doesn't play left field. So are you A, starting Colton Griffin at third base and keeping Jack Bell on the bench?
I
And
don't
so
want
you
to do right
have,
now.
so that means Cole Kramer is playing second, and then you need a first baseman. Okay, is Brody Green playing first base? Or is Isaac Cadena sliding over and playing first base? Okay, both questions that need answering. If Jack Bell is playing second and you move Colton Griffin, or you move, oh, sorry, pardon me. Saying in that scenario, who's DHing, right? Okay, is it Franco? If you're putting Cadena in left, Brody Green at first, Strosnider in right, is Cadena going to first? So who's playing left? Is it Sam Myers? Is it Jack Arthur? Right? Is it Cole Eaton? So like the trickle down effect of this is what I'm really curious to see what the solution is. I don't know that there's necessarily a definitive one. In my head though, the one that makes the most sense
Well,
is
that's what I was going to ask you is tell me if you're drawing the lineup card Thursday night, who's going out there?
I'm putting Colton Griffin at third. I'm putting Jack Bell at second, because in my head, Jack Bell has been your best defensive infielder consistently when he's on the field. Anthony Silva is 1B. And I want him at second base, because second base is more important in my mind than third base defensively. As far as turning to, as far as the responsibilities on cutoffs, as far as covering second on pickoffs, all the kinds of things, I would rather have Jack Bell at second base. I'm probably moving Cole to first. Kramer. I'm keeping Isaac Cadena in left field. I'm putting Sawyer Strosnider in right field. I'm DHing Noah Franco so that he's a pitching option. And then you've got Silva at short, Traeger at behind the plate, and Chase in center. So going around one to 9, you've got whoever's starting pitching. You've got Traeger behind the plate, Kramer at first, Bell at second, Griffin at third, Silva at short, Cadena at left, Brunson in center, Strosnider in right, and then you've got Noah DHing. I don't think that's what we're going to see, but that is the lineup card that I would put out there at this
You're
point.
in charge. That's what's happening.
Yeah. And I'm not a baseball coach, so
Yeah.
I plead
Yeah.
immunity.
I mean, now here's the other question. Without knowing who TCU is going to be playing, who do you run out Tommy and try to really get that first win, or do you try to play the long game for the weekend?
I wonder, because here's the thing: TCU's weekend schedule has been a little wonky because you had the BYU series, which was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then you went back to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you were back to Thursday, Friday, Saturday for Easter, and then you were back to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you were back to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the last weekend of the regular season. And if there's one fact that I know on this planet, Melissa, it's that pitchers are creatures of habit.
They're weirdos.
And they are so weird. And if you disrupt that habit and that routine, sometimes you're not going to see their best effort. And we saw Tommy start to struggle when he was going back Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Friday. He just threw on Thursday of last week. I think you keep his routine the same and you throw him on Thursday of this week.
Interesting.
Because the regional next week is probably going to start on Thursday. And so keep him in the spot where he has been most successful, which is at the front of the rotation. Keep him on schedule, right? That's what I would do. I would go, this is where things get a little crazy.
Yeah.
Because the question is, all right, what do we do in long relief if things go awry? I would probably use an opener on Friday and go to Braden Sloan, is what I would do.
Go Cole Klecker or Caden Parker.
I would go Mason Bixby as an opener, and then I would go to Braden Sloan. I would go hard throwing righty, who has looked really, really good in his last two outings. Yeah. He's kept the ball down. He's commanded his slider. He's looked like the pitcher.
He's only hit like 4 guys.
No. He is not Wild Thing anymore, or at least he hasn't been the last 2 outings. He hit one guy, a guy,
just one.
Anybody could hit one guy. Let's be real here. He didn't even break his elbow this time. And I would go with Mason. He's been
great.
He has looked like the pitcher I was told he was these last 2 outings.
Yeah, I agree.
And giving an opponent, whether it's Kansas or whoever, that look 97, 98, 99, and then going lefty Braden Sloan 77 mile an hour changeup is exactly how you beat Kansas the first time. True. With Tommy Lepore, right? And Braden Sloan. So I think that's what I would do game 2. And then we're going Brassfield, we're going Louis, we're pulling out all the stops on Saturday for a potential Big 12 title.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that logic because if Tommy struggles, you can go Louis on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And we've seen he can pitch twice in a weekend now. You know, you've got, K Beauty you've got guys that can throw multiple innings, have shown they can throw multiple innings over the course of this season. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good strategy. And all love to Bixby. Like it is fun to tease him because of some of his past exploits, but he really has looked like that guy. Yeah. The last couple of hours. And I think what it is too is they have learned how to manage the mental and the physical side, and they're giving him a role he's very comfortable in, and he's performing at a high level because of it. Yeah. And people need to remember too, he missed his entire senior year with Tommy John. Yeah. And then he missed this fall with an injury. And so he is a sophomore who has not played a lot of baseball in the last 3 years. And so I think that there's still... He's got the beard of a 30-year-old man. He looks 40, but he is still very much 19. And I think that there's a lot of development left in him that we have yet to see. And so I think that this would be a great opportunity to kind of give him a little bit more responsibility and see what he does with it. As far as Cademan goes, I think at the end of the day, you dance with the people who got you here, and Cademan is one of the guys that got you here. He's pitched really, really well at times this season. He's struggled a lot at times this season. He's been banged up at times this season. But if you want to accomplish what this team wants to accomplish, at some point, Cademan Parker's got to give you his best. Yeah.
And so you're going to give him the opportunity to go out there and give you his best. I think he's earned that. He's given a ton to this team. The past couple seasons, not just on the field, but as a leader in the clubhouse. You talk to anybody in that dugout, and Caden Parker is one of the first guys that they bring up as one of the leaders. It's one of the voices in that they listen to and respect the most. Makes sense because he's one of the only seniors on the team. But
He's also just
I
another
think
just wonderful human being.
incredible person, right? And so I think you give him the opportunity to rebound from the
Yeah.
last couple of outings that he's had, whether that's long relief or a late inning where you just get one inning from him, in the seventh or whatever it is after Tommy goes out there. Whatever it is, I would be surprised if we didn't see Cademan this week in Arlington if TCU's playing more than one ball game.
Yeah.
And come regional time, they're gonna figure out a way to get Cademan Parker involved.
Yeah. Well, and if they said if they want to accomplish their goals, he has to pitch and pitch well. Like you're not getting
Right.
to a super regional without Caden Parker giving you good innings. It's just not happening.
Yeah, I mean you're already without, right? Like you've already lost Ben Abelt,
Yeah.
right? Ben Abel's still not coming back, so
Yeah.
you gotta
And
have
you
Caden Parker.
trust that your most experienced player to get right. And I think, he has there's been nothing announced, but we know he missed some time earlier. He's probably still a little banged up, maybe some time off and some good rest and some good mental reset is probably just what he needed. And if TC's going to win a Big 12 championship this weekend, if they're going to have a chance to host and to advance to a super regional, Cademan's going to be a part of it. Like that's just the way it's going to be. So I think that it's fair to say I don't think anyone's lost faith in his ability. I think we're all okay with, their potential. Like you got to have somebody ready, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't have things unravel too far because you're in kind of win or go home mode here for the next several weeks.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
and you also look back and you say, when was the last time he really had a great outing? I would say Houston was one of them.
Yeah.
And so, you could also be looking at a situation where Kirk's really not going to make a decision until he knows who they're playing.
Yeah.
And so if it's Kansas State, you go with Tommy.
Yeah.
If it's because they didn't see Tommy the first time around, they saw, I believe it was Trevor Baumler that started that game.
You're right.
And then, if it's Houston, you go with the guy who had a really good outing against Houston the last time around. Maybe that's what they do, and they go Cademan, Tommy, Brassfield on Saturday, something like that.
It'll be fun. It's gonna be a fun weekend of baseball. I think obviously we're very invested in what TCU needs to do. But you mentioned there's a couple other teams that are really playing for some spots. This is a bigger conference than it has been, and so I think that having more potential teams in the field of 64, that's part of it. But I do think we've also seen some teams like you mentioned with Oklahoma State that are playing really good baseball down the stretch. Who else you can be paying attention to this weekend in Arlington?
So there are 8 teams, like I said off the top, that D1 baseball currently has penciled into the NCAA tournament. They are West Virginia, Arizona, TCU, Kansas, Kansas State, Arizona State, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma State. And I think that the 2 teams that need to do something this week to really solidify their spot in the tournament are Cincinnati and Oklahoma State. Everyone else has at least 17 wins in the Big 12. Cincinnati sitting there at 16, Oklahoma State sitting there at 15. I think if OSU can win their first game, they play Baylor tomorrow at 4 p.m. Or Wednesday at 4 p.m. And then Cincinnati plays Texas Tech the game before that at 12:30. You win those 2 games, Cincinnati and Oklahoma State, I think you're talking about the Big 12 having 8 teams in the NCAA tournament, legitimately. Those teams. So let me double check here. Cincinnati's game feeds into West Virginia, who has proven that they are not playing their best baseball right now. And then Oklahoma State feeds into Kansas. And I believe Oklahoma State took the series from Kansas earlier this year when those 2 teams played. I could be wrong on that. Someone will definitely fact check me on that. But those are the 2 teams that I'm watching because they're the ones that I think also need a win to make sure that they actually lock in a tournament spot in the Big Dance. Other than that, West Virginia getting swept by Kansas really puts them outside of the hosting conversation unless they win the Big 12 tournament.
Because they need to win the whole thing?
I think they need to win the whole thing. Their RPI isn't great right now, and their out of conference strength of schedule is so abysmally bad it's like 224 or something like that, that they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt from the selection committee unless they win this title. Um, and the same thing goes for Arizona. Like Arizona was in a prime spot to host until they lost the weekend series to Utah 2 weeks ago, and now their RPI is like around 39 or 40. I don't think they're going to be in the hosting conversation unless they win the tournament too. So you're talking about one win for TCU to get a host, one win for Cincinnati and Oklahoma State each to make sure that they're in the big dance, and then you've got a slew of teams that are really kind of duking it out to solidify themselves as a 2 seed, maybe move up from the 3 line to the 2 line. Don't win a game this week, maybe you drop from the 2 line to the 3 line. So there's a lot of moving parts. The only way Texas Tech, Baylor, BYU, and Houston get into the dance is by winning this thing this week. So I'm not expecting a ton from any of them. They're all going to be underdogs in their first game, and rightfully so. Wouldn't be shocked if any of them won their first game, but
Crazy things
those
happen at these
crazy
tournaments.
things. I mean, Cal beat Miami
12-2 or
early.
something, right?
Run
It was
ruled
insane.
Miami earlier
Yeah.
today, and that might knock Miami out of the tournament.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, what I'm hearing is you're saying all of this is that we are in for what should be a really entertaining 3 days of baseball, because
Yeah.
almost every team really has something to play for. Like a lot of times you come in and those that top seed is pretty much solidified, locked in. They have West Virginia still has something to fight for. Obviously
Yep.
TCU has something to fight for. Arizona, like every single team playing this weekend, and there's not so many that are so bad that there's like that you would feel they have no shot of getting to a championship game and getting
No,
an
no,
auto
no.
bid. Like that's what's going to be fun.
Yeah. Baylor has talent, right, as the 10
Yeah.
seed, and they could easily knock off a couple teams and get
Sure.
to this conference
They
championship
won't,
game. Like,
but they could.
no, probably not. But I mean, they've got the talent, right? They've got a really good reliever. They've got incredible bats. Their shortstop Kemp is playing out of his mind this year. Like they've got talent, and same with all of these teams. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I encourage, and the best part about TCU getting back to that 3 seed was getting the night games. Like it's a little past my bedtime when these things end. I'm gonna suck it up, but I would much rather play at 7:30 p.m. than 9 a.m. And there was a while it looked like TCU was gonna be on that 9 a.m. line. And once you
Yes.
get on that line, you're on it the whole weekend, and it is just a brutal scene. So
Tough.
yeah, it should be fun. There should be a great crowd. The weather is gorgeous. Maybe we'll even get the roof open for one of these nights. It should be a really fun time. Let's make the most of our time at Globe Life while we still have it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's going to do it for this episode of Frogs Insider presented by the Flying T Club. We will be back next week after we know who has won the Big 12 tournament and where TCU is going or hosting in the NCAA tournament. We'll break all of that down then. But for now, go Frogs.
Go Frogs.